All right, so we're doing basic shapes of cube and pyramid. With the cube, we're going to start with the closest edge. We're going to sight that angle. Take that with your pencil. Bring it over here. So if I draw it first, and I compare it, and I need to adjust it, I can simply restate it like you learned yesterday rather than try to redraw it. Once I have that angle, all I'm going to do is, copy and paste it down, because this angle and that angle and this back angle are all the same. So I think that's where my students really get confused. So I'll start with this one first. Then I'm going to put in the back side of that box, which is parallel to this. So really we're putting in lines that are just, equal with each other or parallel to another. Now I'll go steal the angle for this one, or again I could draw it first and then compare it. That looks pretty good. I know that the bottom of that box is going to be the same. So all I'm doing is just duplicating that angle down here. Now this seems exceptionally basic, but it's one of those things that my students really seem to kind of struggle with. The third angle, really, actually, we already have it. So this is where my students go wrong. We just have to take this and slide it back. So that angle needs to be parallel. This angle gets duplicated back here. So, in reality, there's only there's 1, 2, and then a straight line. That's it. So this is what I often see that I want you to try to avoid, and I know exactly why it happens. So I see this happening a lot, where these lines start to kind of bow out and they don't stay parallel with one another, equal distant from one another. More often than not, though, what I end up seeing is I also end up seeing this, where one of the sides of the box looks like it got crushed. It's kind of leaning out. Our legs are kind of leaning back. So we can just kind of restate that and clean that up and get it square. This is the most common mistake I see, though. And that's why I like restating, because then I can see that old line in relationship to the new, and I can tell what's wrong with it. What I usually see is this on the back side. My students will say, you know what, I'm going to do that line, and then I'm doing this one. And they will convince themselves that, it couldn't possibly come back like this, because it just doesn't seem like it would feel right. And they'll say that to me, that doesn't seem right. Don't overthink it. A lot of times we get in our own way by thinking in our mind like negatively, or thinking, that can't be right. When in reality, all you have to do is just make sure it's duplicating what's here. So that's typically the most common thing I see, is that back edge is off. So, especially when you've got an extreme point of view, like if we change the angle of that box, and this one really will come back a long ways, and it almost feels awkward to do it, but it's correct because it's parallel with this one. So no matter what angle you end up drawing it on, these lines need to be parallel with one another. Okay? So that's the box. All right? Then the pyramid, and the reason we saved these two, Victoria was smart in saying that, is these two are, very similar in the way they're constructed or crafted. They're very geometric, very angular. So here we can go again. Okay? We're doing a third line to get our pyramid. And then you can't see the bottom that well, but, it's kind of one of these things. So make sure that these angles also kind of flip back. You could probably use the box angles to help you out with that and just duplicate those. Again, if you'd rather start with the lead edge, you could. And then, draw the other side of the triangle, and then the other side, and then boom, boom. Okay? So these seem pretty basic. I'm going to tell you why it is we're starting with these basic forms, and why that if you can learn to draw these well, you can pretty much draw anything. So hang tight with me and draw these two. Get a couple of them on your page, and then we're going to break, and I'll show you the next step.